Hey everyone, welcome back. In the last lesson, we went through the process of going out and finding icons that you like, pulling them into Sketch and exporting them and all of that. And we ended up with some icons. Now, I'm actually going back to the ones that I used for the when I was making the project because I like those ones a little bit better. So go ahead and download the assets for the previous lesson if you didn't follow along, or even if you did, still download those ones, and we're going to be using those ones instead. And so those are these right here. So go ahead and grab those and drag those into your assets. And go ahead and rename this one. That we have a duplicate for home world. And I'm going to call this homeworld underscore icon. There we go. Now with our finished app, let me see if I can drag it over here. We have the 4 buttons inside of a rounded black transparent background view in a stack view. So let's go ahead and create that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open up our storyboard. And here we are going to need 4 buttons. So I'm going to open up our object library, drag in a button, and I'm going to go ahead and just give that an image right now. And we'll give it, the first one is home world icon. So there we have that. I'm gonna go ahead and delete the text. And that looks great. I'm going to go ahead and give it a size constraint. We're gonna make this button 35 by 35. Add those 2 constraints. And then we're going to create 3 copies of this button. So I'm going to hold Option and drag. So now we have 2, 3, 4. Very good. Now selecting our second one, this is going to be the vehicle. So change the image to vehicles. For the third, this is our starships. So I'm going to go ahead and change the image to starships. And our fourth one is the films icon. And we have that one right there. All right, so now we are going to select all 4 of these and we are going to embed them in a stack view. So that looks good. Now they have resized, and then we're going to embed this in a view. And let's go ahead and change the background color just so that we can kind of see how it's supposed to look. And then with the view selected, we're going to change it to our custom class that we created, black background view. There we go, that looks good. And now let's go ahead and add some constraints that we're going to need. Let's go ahead and set the width of this view equal to the width of the view above it. So we can select this first view and then select the second view here in the document outline. And then go ahead and select here our constraints and say equal widths. That looks good. And then select our view here and let's go ahead and anchor it 14 from the bottom of the view above it. And then finally, let's center it horizontally in the container. Very good. Oh, and we also need to give it a height. So go ahead and give it a height of 75. Add that constraint. All right, so our outer view is fully constrained. So now let's check out our inner stack view. Okay, so we have our 4 buttons in a stack view, and the parent view is constrained to the view above it. And so as it resizes in width, then we are going to want to make it so that the stack view also resizes and that we have equal spacing between the buttons. So our stack view fill or a distribution should be equal spacing. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and constrain it 20 from the left, 20 from the right. And then we need to supply its Y orientation. So we say vertically in container. And there we have it. So now we have our 4 buttons in a stack view, nicely spaced and filling up its parent view. Very good. So let's go ahead and run this real quick just to see how that looks. All right, beautiful. Perfect. All right, so now let's go ahead and add these IB actions for each of these buttons, shall we? I'm gonna go ahead and open up our select person VC in our assistant editor. I'm gonna come down here after the random clicked action, and let's create IB actions for each of these. So I'm going to select the top one right here. I'm going to control and drag in, and this is going to be home world clicked. I'm going to say connect. And then below that, let's get the next one, which is our vehicles. So I'm going to say vehicles clicked. I'm going to say connect. And then the third one is our starships. And so what these buttons are going to do is it's going to segue to our other view controllers that display the information about the home world, vehicles, starships, and films. Okay, so I'm going to say starships clicked and connect. And finally, our films here. So I'm going to say films clicked, and I'm going to say connect. Now we're also going to need outlets for each of these buttons because we need to be able to enable and disable them depending on whether or not they have information available about the home world, vehicles, starships, and films, okay? So let's go ahead and create outlets for each of those. So I'm going to select here, control and drag, and this is going to be our home world button. Next up, we have our vehicles button. Then we have our starships button. And lastly, our films button. All right, perfect. All right, so that is where we're going to finish up this lesson. We added our buttons, put them inside of a stack view, and then embedded that in a view, put all of our necessary constraints in, and then hooked up our IB actions and outlets. In the next lesson, we are going to take a look at how we can add some logic to make sure that we're only able to click these buttons when the person that comes back from the Star Wars API actually has information about the vehicles, starships, homeworld, and films. All right, so I'll see you then.